Wicked cool. Feature alert.
Hey there, podcast fans. Thanks for listening. Now, you can also reach out and send me a text message. On every episode, at the top of the show notes, you'll see a link that says, send us a text message. Simply click it, write something super nice and sweet, and away we go. Also remember to please subscribe, share this podcast with a friend by telling them about it, and leave us a positive review, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, your favorite podcast streaming service, or even on our website at www.afraidofnothingpodcast.com.
The time of judgment is very close. The time of putting an end to everything is very close. Since this is a prophetic book, every prophecy will come into fruition. Every prophecy will be fulfilled. Just look around you, my dear friend. It does not take a genius to figure out what is happening in the world. It is absolutely disastrous, and it is absolutely a godless generation. Everything that is happening in the world is nothing but the core of evilness. Evil in its core. And people are choosing Satan and rejecting Jesus Christ. They have Satan temples in America. They worship him in the open. We're living in the end of time. And no one is moving a finger. Christians have gone asleep.
In a world where nothing is known, nothing is certain, reality is not real. Wake up! Be afraid of nothing. I'm Bob Heskey.
Robert.
The host with the ghost.
This is my podcast, based on my paranormal documentary, Afraid of Nothing. Each episode, we talk to people who see life and the afterlife through a different lens. Join me.
Who is this large man? And what's he doing in our bedroom?
As we lift the veil and open our minds to see beyond our eyes lie. This is Afraid of Nothing.
We have a great show today, folks. I am privileged to have Bishop Larry Ragland. Larry has been serving in pastoral and church ministry for more than 30 years. He's an author and public speaker. Alongside his wife, Sandy, and their two daughters, Larry planted Solid Rock Church in Birmingham, Alabama in 1994. Together, they have pastored the same church since its founding. Larry's known throughout the world through his television program, The Big Picture, and the internet video program by the same name. Bishop Larry travels the nation and the world, equipping churches, ministers, and leaders for this strategic moment in the kingdom. Larry has two podcasts, The Big Picture and the Remnant Leadership Podcast. Larry's book, I See Greatness in You, is literally shifting a culture. It is a movement, and it's Larry's purpose in life to help others unlock the hidden potential within them. It is there, but most need someone else to help us pull it out. His book and his speaking will do just that, and we're thrilled to have him on the podcast today. Bishop Larry, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, sir. It is a wonderful blessing and honor to be here on the program. Thank you.
Yes, same here. A lot has happened in April. I mean, we're at the last day of April right now, but go back a couple weeks on 4/8, there was a solar eclipse. There was a lot to do about that. So what is the biblical significance of eclipses, and why is that something to pay attention to?
Well, first of all, it's just surreal to hear you say the eclipse, because it feels like that was like 3 months ago. But that's this month. There's so much stuff, so many things have happened. I mean, to just think that, wow, that was just a few weeks ago. But yes, my wife and I traveled to Arkansas to see the totality. And if you're listening to this and you've never seen totality, and you live in America, you got 20 years to prepare for the next one. There's nothing like it. It is incredible. There's a lot of people on the internet, preachers as well as just podcasters and all this, talking about the biblical significance of an eclipse. Some people are saying that it was going to affect the gravitational pull. It was going to create earthquakes and all this. I never really believed that, never went that route. God can do anything. But I've always looked at things like that as more of harbingers, signs. In fact, in Genesis 1:14, God said that when he created the sun and the moon and the stars, before he ever said he created them for light, he said, I created them for signs in the heavens and for seasons and for times. So the reality is this, he defined their initial purpose to be for signs. So when you see things like an actual scientific natural phenomenon such as an eclipse or something like that, yes, they're scientific. Yes, they can be tracked. Yes, they can be predicted to be thousands of years in advance when these are going to happen because of the rotation, because of the solar system and how it works. But they are harbingers as well because they are signs to us here on this earth that something is shifting and something is happening. The interesting thing about the eclipse is the precise size and distance that it has to have in order for us here on Earth to see it. Scientists believe that we are the only planet in all of our solar system that has the ability to see a total solar eclipse because the sun is 400 times larger than the moon, and the moon is 400 times further away than the moon is to the earth. So it's precisely sized the moon is and the sun, and precisely spaced out perfectly so that human beings here on this earth, when these things come around, can see it. When you look at that, you just see that there's just something spectacular about that, something that is specific to humanity and something specific to this planet. So that's why I always believe that things like this were signs. And, speaking biblically, one of the things that got a lot of people really stirred up, and it was really incredible to me, is the path of this particular eclipse in 2024 and where it crossed the path of the one in 2017. The one in 2017 crossed across 7 cities known as Salem, which basically means peace. This one crossed across 7 cities known as Nineveh, which in the Bible, the story of Jonah in the well. And Jonah went to this evil, sadistic place called Nineveh and told them to repent. He didn't want to go there to do it, but he did it. And I encourage the listeners, all you got to do is Google search this, go to Wikipedia and search for something called the Great Assyrian Eclipse. And when you search for the Great Assyrian Eclipse, you'll see a detailed Wikipedia article there about this documented eclipse. They'll even show you the map of where it came across that NASA has confirmed would have come across in that area in that time. And even in the Wikipedia article, it says, and this is believed to be the eclipse that happened the day that Jonah went into Nineveh and told them to repent. The Great Assyrian Eclipse happened on that day. In 716, I believe it was BC, it might be 763 BC. I'm going off the top of my head here. But it was precisely the day that Jonah went in, and the sun went dark, and it was a harbinger. It was a sign to repent. So when you look at the eclipse that we just had, yeah, it's an amazing thing to see. It was an incredible thing to experience. But I believe it was a harbinger. I believe it was a sign of something shifting. You look at just what has happened since then, just in the last few weeks, and it looks to me like, Robert, we are moving towards quickly something that is really life-changing for us and the world.
I want to just point out a couple things, too. The crucifixion of Christ, there was an eclipse, which some people forget, I think, and that was a pretty telling moment. And for here in the Northeast, Larry, sometimes bad weather happens after eclipses.
Mm-hmm.
The week before, we had snow, heavy snow in certain parts of Massachusetts, New York.
Yeah, that's right.
And also there was an earthquake, New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts. That was kind of interesting.
And the interesting thing about the earthquake that was centered in New Jersey was it was a 4.8.
Yep.
And the eclipse was on 4.8.
Ah, wow!
That's
right.
If you think about that, that was pretty wild.
That's amazing. Yeah, there's some other interesting things that happen on 4.8 that we'll talk about when we get to CERN. But yeah, so the aftermath. I think you covered a lot of the points I wanted to talk about regarding the 4.8 solar eclipse and the Bible connection. The aftermath. Some people are like, "Oh, see, we're still alive, no big deal." But you said, I mean, when we started, you said, wow, it just seems like it's 3 months since the eclipse because so much is going on. So what are some of the wheels in motion that you see that are, that the eclipse might have been a harbinger of?
Well, I mean, obviously the harbinger of Jonah, going back to what you said about the crucifixion, when they were pushing Jesus for a sign, he said, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after sign, but the only sign that I will give you is the sign of the prophet Jonah. And basically he told them that so that when he died on the cross, the sun went dark. Now there is debate. Some people believe that it was not, it was just a blocking of the sun because it lasted for 3 hours. But what you got to understand is in that day and time, they did not have the hindsight that we have to understand. One of the things that Jesus was talking about was Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days and that Jesus was going to be in the tomb for 3 days. So he was trying to let them know, hey, this is what happened to Jonah. This is what's happened to me. But when they thought the sign of Jonah, they had no idea. They had no way of knowing the 3 days in the tomb was coming. So they equated the sign of Jonah with darkness. When the sky went dark, that was a call for repentance. That was a call for, okay, everything I told you was going to happen has happened. And this is the sign of Jonah that's happened to you. The moment he said it is finished, the sky went dark. So they equated that with a story that would have been very, very well known to the people of Israel in that time, Jonah. So the harbinger is a call to repentance. And so then you look at our world right now since 4/8, and I'm telling you, it's just crazy when you think about how the Bible predicts that in the last days you'll see wars and rumors of wars like never before, pestilence like never before, earthquakes in various places like never before. But then it goes on to say that men will forsake God and become lovers of themselves. All these things that will happen in the moral side of it as well, not just the signs in the earth, things shaking and the things in the heavens. It talks about the moral place and the spiritual standard of the world, how it will change dramatically and quickly. And at the time of this recording, look at what's going on in our colleges, look what's happening in our streets. I mean, it's like you turn your news on in the morning and it's like a switch was flipped in the month of April and has thrown us into chaos. Quite frankly, without trying to get too political here, it sort of reminds me of 4 years ago when we were moving into a political system. And of course, we had the pandemic. We had many things that were going on around the world that had things on lockdown. Fear was gripping. But I got a feeling that where we're headed in this summer and into the fall, certainly leading up to the election, I think it's only just beginning. And I try not to sound like a fearmonger when I talk about it on my show and even in my church and just talking to people. But I'm trying to wake people up. That's why I call my show The Big Picture, is because I want them to know that there is more going on in this world than what you can see and what you can hear or what any of your five senses can really reveal to you. There is another dimension. There is a spirit realm that is actively working. And the reality is this: if we are winding down, if this thing is winding down or something cataclysmic is about to happen that was predicted by God and in the Bible, then guess what? The enemy knows that as well. And the enemy knows that he's running out of time. And I hate to say this, boy, I hope I'm wrong, but I believe that the harbinger side of the eclipse was a call to repent. It was a call to say, look, I'm giving you a chance right now to see my sovereignty, to see who I am, and just make some things right, because the world that's coming, that we're going to be living through, is going to be unlike anything we've ever had to experience before. And if you don't know who you are, and if you don't know where you stand with your Creator, you will fall for anything. These things are lined up. And if I could just say this one thing, I truly, there again, hope I'm wrong, but I believe when you look at the Middle East and what's happening there, and then how it is spilling over into the colleges and the streets and around the world, not just in our country, but then you look at what is continuing to happen in Ukraine, and then you look at Taiwan. China has said, we reported this on our show back last year. We had a person in our military that I trust with all my heart, that's tied to intelligence, came and did an off-the-record interview with me, and he told me some things. In fact, he came to me, sought me out, said, I need to tell you some things that I need you to share with the big picture. Some things you can't share publicly, but some things you can. And that's when he began to say, in June of 23, he told me, actively right now, our military is preparing to go to war with China in 24. And he said it is of a 100% mentality of the military that something is going to happen, that Xi Jinping, this was last year in 23, is planning on waiting, listen to this, waiting for the summer of 24 to make a move on Taiwan because he knows that America will be divided over the election. There'll be other things going on. That was long before even October 7th happened and all of the things that happened in Israel. So our military was already preparing for Xi Jinping in China to take advantage of the election turmoil here to take Taiwan. So when you talk about China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine, Hamas, Israel, Iran, and then you see all this other stuff, I'm telling you, whether you believe in God or not, you have to go back and admit this is all the kind of stuff that's been revealed to us in 1 month. I mean, April the 8th was just a few weeks ago or a few months ago. If you're listening to this later, it hasn't been that long, no matter when you're listening to this. And I do believe there was a switch in the spirit realm that was flipped. There's no telling what we're about to see.
Yeah, a few observations from my end. So the eclipse, which I forget what year it was before, with Salem in the path,
2017
was peace. It was like, there's your chance for peace. And then war breaks out all over the place. Now it's like, it's repent. And one thing also you mentioned about the Hamas protests, yeah, I think I saw today in the news that no longer are they outside, in tents. I thought students took over in Columbia like a one of the halls, one of the dorms.
Oh, they did. They've stormed it. They've taken hammers and busted in windows, busted down doors. They've gone inside the college. They have set up camp inside the college. They have openly said, do not send the NYPD in here. It would not be good if you did that. I mean, this is getting really scary. They've already predicted, they've already said that they have huge plans for the Democratic National Conference that they're having, the annual thing before they nominate Biden. Just like during the Vietnam War, they're chanting, "This is our Vietnam. This is our Vietnam." I'm telling you, this is not winding down. This is the beginning of something big. There's a line being drawn in the sand. That's why I say that the eclipse was not just a amazing natural cosmic thing that we saw. It was a harbinger by God. And if you believe in God, then you understand that he is the beginning and the end. So nothing catches him by surprise. He doesn't make it up as he goes. So that being the case, he knew that April 8th, 2024 was coming. And here we are. And I believe it was a sign before all this just come unleashed here. I'm just letting you know that you have a shot here. You got a chance to make it right. But that's on you, because I'm trying to give you a heads up that something is shifting now. Something is going into another realm, another phase, another gear. It's just like the old, a lot of the listeners don't even know what a manual transmission in a car is. But, when you went down to fourth gear, then you had to go up and over and then up again to hit that fifth gear, that overdrive. I believe that's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm one of the last people to drive a manual stick. Yeah, I one other thing you said about the military aspect that concerns me is we've depleted our oil reserves. We're sending all our ammo and not fighting physically in different places. So, you mentioned that we're gearing up, but it seems like we're depleting a lot of our resources to protect ourselves.
No doubt about it. And in fact, we are literally taking away from our own military to send to other militaries. And even as we speak, Zelensky just made a speech on YouTube for anybody to watch where he addressed the Ukrainian people. And unbeknownst to anybody in our media, apparently, did not report this. Not to say they didn't know it, but they probably chose not to report it. But he said to his people that he just got off the phone with Jeffries, the leader of the Democratic caucus, and the leaders of the Biden administration to negotiate a 10-year military and funding deal that cannot be revoked. 10 years, which basically is being called a Trump-proof or whoever-proof deal that would make it illegal to void this. Whoever became president, they would not have the power to retract this money. They're trying to quickly lock down a 10-year deal. I don't want to make this all about politics, and I don't want to make this all about Ukraine, What a lot of people don't realize, not this one, the 61 billion is probably in there too, but the previous one that was almost $100 billion, people may not realize that in that bill was money to help keep mom and pop shops open on the main streets of Kiev. There was payment money in there to pay the local police, to pay the waterworks, to pay the public workers. There was retirement plans to make sure that their police had sufficient retirement. We paid the retirement of the Ukrainian police officers. And there was video, I've seen video of people going in Kiev into little mom and pop consignment shops where people are selling clothing and hats. And they're saying, we're so thankful to America because if it wasn't for America, I wouldn't be able to keep my business open. We're not just sending military, we're sending money to sustain the economy of another country while like you just said, our military is being depleted, our veterans are not being taken care of, and our own needs in our country are not being addressed.
Yeah, we're going to hop off this subject in a quick second, but, one other double irony is that everybody felt that Russia's forces were being depleted with this Ukrainian war, but silently the United States is, it seems, monetarily, natural resources with oil, plus weaponization. We're being depleted.
Yeah, and don't know if we want to go down this rabbit hole, but it's almost like it was planned to be that way. It's almost like there's some forces in play that are actively trying to deplete the influence and power of America. That's all I'll say.
Well, let's go to something equally cheery. Let's talk about CERN. A lot of people don't know what CERN is, but there's some interesting things about that. I've heard you on several podcasts. I'm going to try to take a shot at explaining it very quickly. Then hopefully you'll correct me. But basically, CERN was developed probably in the 1960s. The question was the Big Bang. After the Big Bang happened, what is the missing particle, what they call the guard particle, that holds mass together? Like you and I are made of particles. What's the glue? What's the thing that keeps us together so that you can't see holes through us, right? Mm-hmm. So 50 years later, 2012, they had a breakthrough where they discovered the God particle. And I should also say, so what CERN is, the acronym is kind of weird. It's the European Organization for Nuclear Research. Not sure how you get CERN out of that, but basically it's a large hadron collider accelerator. It's a $10 billion atom smasher in a 17-mile or 27-kilometer, if you're listening overseas, tunnel under the Swiss and French border. So basically, they have particles go in opposite directions, smash into each other, and they have magnets along the route that kind of measure this. And out of that, they try to, when this mini Big Bang happens, they try to capture the because it doesn't last very long, the God particle that holds other particles together. So that's my kind of weak layman's approach of explaining CERN. But what would you correct me on or add to that, Larry?
I wouldn't correct anything. That was excellent. I'm very proud of you, man. That was good.
Thanks, bud.
Yes, it was very good. But, CERN, I always have to lead by going, I'm very concerned about CERN.
Yeah.
Okay, so anytime you do a show on CERN, anytime you talk about CERN and podcasts like yourselves and the confessionals and other places I've been on, a lot of people that watch and listen to that do not consider themselves to be religious and so forth. And I get that and understand that. They are literally interested in topics like CERN. One of the pushbacks you'll get is, oh, come on, your little fairy tale stuff that you're saying and all this. CERN is purely scientific, purely doing these experiments to discover our origin. You're just trying to make everything about your Bible and all that. Well, no. Okay, so I say up front, there is without a doubt scientific experiments happening at CERN. Without a doubt, they are conducting many of the things that they are saying that it was built to conduct. But this is a big one. There is more going on in CERN than just that. There is an agenda tied to CERN that you have to have an open mind to see it, but it's not, you don't have to make up things in your mind to believe it. There is evidence. There are so many things that have happened in CERN. There are so many people who have worked at CERN that have left CERN out of fear, out of concern, out of things that they saw, things that they heard that just did not jive with the fact of why they thought they had become employed to work at a place called CERN. One of the things that I tell people is, I don't put all my stock in movies and TV, but I do believe in this concept called predictive programming. And I do believe that many movies that we've watched, in fact, my wife and I say all the time, we need to go back and watch every movie we watched in the 80s and the early 90s because they're all coming true, every single one of them. And the thing with the elites, the secret societies, if you want to use those words, the cabals and all this, one of the things that no matter which group you're part of, that they sort of have accepted as one of the things that they do is they feel that they need to tell you what they're going to do before they do it. And there's multiple reasons for that. One is to desensitize you to it when it actually happens. You're mentally already programmed and ready for that to happen. And then the other side, the spiritual side of it, is that they feel it's almost like a narcissistic thing. They want to let you know, hey, we are saying the quiet thing out loud. We're full of ourselves. You can't stop us. And so when you think about why CERN was created, the promotion, as you just said, was a large collider to find this God particle. Well, that alone, you think about it, is an attack on the creator, because if you believe in a creator, you can't recreate the creator. So if you're trying to find the glue that holds us all together, that one thing that you can't achieve, you can achieve all this other stuff, but you can't find that, and you believe that you have the ability to dig tunnels underground and find that, that's an assault against the creator. One interesting thing about that is that we know that light travels at 186,000 miles per second, but they have yet to achieve that speed with the collider. Either they've yet to achieve it, or they can't do it, or they've chosen not to do it. But when you search and you find the speed that these atoms travel, they travel literally, you can find this on the internet, at 99.9% the speed of light. It's literally 0.1 decibel away from the speed of light. So they can't achieve even the speed of light. You can stop me anytime, brother, because I'll keep going.
Well, one thing I'll just say, point one is a huge difference. It's a huge difference in our DNA. It's a huge difference in things when the Big Bang happened. 0.1 difference in things probably we don't have consciousness.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah, it's a huge thing. One question I do have for you, Bishop Larry, is who are they? So who are the people behind CERN? Because it's global. It's not just like one or two countries. So just if you could just cover that for a second.
Yeah. Okay. So to answer that question, let's say some things here about where CERN is located, and we'll give you a better understanding to answer that question. It is crazy to me, even when all these years later that I've been talking about this, every time I talk about this, it still blows my mind. And that is, I'm 56 years old, and I was raised, I heard about Switzerland. I heard about the Swiss Alps. Every once in a while you'd hear things about Swiss bank account. But when you think about Switzerland, most people think about the beautiful ski lodges, the great place to go on a vacation, a dream bucket list vacation, to go and see the beautiful sight of the Swiss Alps and all of that. Well, as I began to go down the rabbit hole of researching CERN, and first, way back years ago, when I first heard about CERN, I had no idea where CERN was.
Yep.
I just heard about it. Some people told me about it, and I really wasn't awake yet to the truth like I am now, and still waking up to a lot of stuff. But I just started looking at it. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. It's in Switzerland. Of course, the majority of it, I would say a little over half of it is in Switzerland, and the other part is in France. But the center of it is in Geneva, Switzerland. So I was really intrigued by that. Why would you choose Switzerland? Well, a few years later, after just sort of looking at CERN, I began to realize, and I started hearing about this thing called the World Economic Forum. I'm sure you're familiar with them.
Yep.
And of course, its director, Klaus Schwab. And it's in Davos, Switzerland. I was so gullible, I would hear Davos. I had no idea where Davos was. Well, when I began to search Davos, I realized Davos is in Switzerland. So I began to think about, okay, this little country, and by the way, this other thing about this country is it's always considered itself to be neutral. It doesn't choose sides, all these kind of narratives about Switzerland. Well, in this little country, on one side, the eastern tip of Switzerland, the east side of it is Davos, Switzerland, where the elites of the world, the presidents, the prime ministers, the Hollywood elites, the media elites, the billionaires, the tech giant, they meet every year in Davos, Switzerland. and they fly in their private jets. They come in from all over the world. There's hundreds and hundreds of private jets lined up in a private airport just on the outside of Davos. And then they drive their giant SUVs to Davos, and they stand up there and tell everybody that the climate is going to take us under and that you can't eat meat anymore. And you're going to have to eat bugs and all this kind of stuff. Then they get back in their SUVs and get back in their private jets and fly back to their luxurious lives. Well, they get their marching orders. That's where every narrative you've ever heard on the media, when you hear the media repeating something over and over and over again, regardless of which channel you go to, you go back and you watch Davos, you heard them say at Davos those words. So they all come and they all get their marching orders. So when I begin to realize that on one side of Switzerland is Davos, where they get their marching orders, where the whole world gets the narrative to speak. And then on the other side of Switzerland is Geneva. And Geneva is, by the way, the headquarters for the World Health Organization in Geneva, Switzerland, that has the right to, which, by the way, May 26th, May 27th, they're going to vote to ratify the Global Pandemic Treaty, the Global Pandemic Agreement, which will, I have read it on air on my show, which has within it the ability to override your constitution, your government anywhere in the world. It can declare pandemics. They have the exclusive right to declare pandemics. Well, all of this is coming out of the World Health Organization. The World Trade Organization is in Geneva. And then, get this, brother, in Geneva, Switzerland, not only is the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, but 33 international organizations that reaches the world, including the Red Cross, was started in Geneva, Switzerland, headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. All of these organizations, 33 international organizations, are all based in Geneva. And you're going to have the search for the God particle underneath the ground of those 33 international organizations, underneath the ground of a nation that gets its marching orders and its narrative for all of the world. No, that's not suspicious at all.
Yeah. Sounds like almost like Rome is for Catholics. It's like the center for dark governments or whatever they call it.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. Also of note, I think, isn't Switzerland like the capital of underground bunkers?
Oh God.
Yeah, which to me is ironic because you have this collider, this large hadron collider exploding things, and you have bunkers underground. I don't know if that kind of defeats the purpose, but talk about that if you don't mind.
Oh God! All right, y'all ready to have your mind blown? Because I guarantee you,
it's already gone, Larry. It's already gone.
It's already gone. Oh my goodness! Let me tell you something. If y'all didn't already know this, when you hear me say this, you are not going to believe it, and you're going to search it out, and then you're going to be amazed because you're going to find out exactly what I'm telling you is 100% true. Switzerland, that little tiny country that has Davos on one side, Geneva on the other side, and CERN underneath it, is the underground bunker capital of the world. In Switzerland, there are at least, listen to the words, at least, many believe many more than this, but at least documented 375,000 underground bunkers in the nation of Switzerland. Wow. Almost every home, not going to say every home, but almost every home has access to some kind of underground bunker. That when you look at the Swiss Alps, there's a video that's on YouTube that you can just search 375,000 bunkers, Switzerland, or something like that, and you'll find it. This guy went there. He's one of the most prominent content creators out there. He gets millions and millions of views. Everybody would know his face when they see him. He took his drones there. And he went there to verify this. He comes back and verified it's at least this many and more. And he started flying these drones through the mountains of the Swiss Alps. And he would see weird-looking rocks. And he would zoom his drone into the weird-looking rock. And he would realize they're not rocks. They are pretending to be rocks. And some of them, because they've been abandoned, have moved a little bit. The metal hinges have moved. And you can see cannons sticking out of the side of these mountains. Oh. These mountains are filled with artillery cannons that were put in all the way back into World War II. So when you talk about underground banks, the reason the Swiss banking industry became to be the place where people would try to hide their money and all of that is because so much is stored underground in these bunkers. And it is believed by many people that in many of these bunkers are still the remnants of the possessions of Hitler. Because when Hitler was about to invade Switzerland, you go back and research your history, you'll find he's about to go into Switzerland. And there was a deal made between Switzerland and the Nazi regime to not invade. But even before that deal was made, they started getting afraid there was going to be attacked. They started building these bunkers.
Yeah.
They started building the bunkers pre-World War II and all the way through World War II. But the deal was made. If you go down, you can take your gold, your money, and all of your occultic symbols and your occultic paraphernalia, and we will store them in the underground bunkers of Switzerland. Because Hitler was very, very heavily involved in the occult, in demonic worship, quite frankly, and the arts, if you will, or whatever you can call it, of the demonic realm. So it is believed that underground in Switzerland, there are many occultic things, money, hidden, gold, all this is underground. Then you decide, as you just said, that of all the places in the world, why did you choose Switzerland to go underground and create the largest underground experimental lab in the history of humanity, where your tunnel is racing by and going through right alongside occultic things, demonic rituals that have happened? These are verifiable things. Switzerland is a weird place, man. It is weird.
So is Switzerland the portal to hell, or because that's one thing they talk about, that's one of the conspiracy theories that come out about CERN, is that what they're really trying to do is open a portal to, it's not just a God particle, they're really trying to open a portal to the underworld.
Yes.
So it raises two questions. What do you think about that? And two, you being a very religious person, obviously, Larry, do you think hell is within the inside of Earth, or is it somewhere else?
Okay, I've got to go with the Bible. If the Bible says something, I always say it this way: if the literal sense makes sense, any other sense is nonsense.
Okay.
So if the Bible says hell is beneath me, I'm going to believe it's beneath me. So
okay.
I do believe that. I mean, there's no reason for me, if I'm going to believe the Bible, to believe, no, what it really meant was go through the earth and it's in another place, in a dimension, in another solar system. No, if it says it's beneath me in the earth, then I'm going to believe that. But to answer your question on portals are very real, y'all. Portals are very, very real. There are certain places on this earth that are more spiritual than others, demonically, as well as on the good side. And I could do a whole teaching on that, meaning our word for it is portals, but we would, there's things in scripture that would say the heavens are open. These kind of things would be the same thing as portals. But yeah, there at CERN, multiple people have testified that they are tapping into another realm. Now, going back to predictive programming, in my opinion, the best example out there of what is going on in CERN, and some people's going to laugh at me and think, oh, boy, he's off his rocker. But when you really start listening to people that have left CERN, that have legitimately, verifiably worked at CERN, and the things they're saying is Stranger Things, the show Stranger Things on Netflix. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, I need to watch it, though. I've heard you mention it, and I know I've seen parts of it. And what's the name of the character, the girl? They give her, what's her name?
11. Her name is
11.
11, because she, they named all the kids and all that. And she was the one that has the powers. They call her L, but her name is 11 because she's number 11 in the kids. But this is all about a secret underground laboratory where there are machines, large machines that are unknown to the public, that are being used, that are penetrating another dimension. The whole premise of it is on the other side, they eventually tap into something and a portal is opened and the two worlds begin to intermingle with each other. 11, the main character, and many of these other kids, they are able to somehow see and experience the spilling over of these dimensions. Well, that other world is called the upside down world. And in that show, it's basically everything. When you walk through the upside down world, it's dark, it's gray. There's this weird looking ash blowing all the time. But when you walk through the streets of the upside down world in that other dimension, your house. You can see your house. There's the city hall. Everything in your world is there, but it's all dark. It's all gray. It's got vines growing all over it and everything. So when you look at that, you realize, yeah, I know they're probably not trying to make people go open their Bible. The people that make that probably don't believe in God, but they're being used by some kind of force to try to explain. Like I said, they got to tell you what they're doing before they do it. That's understood in that world when you start following it, is that there is the big picture. There is the other dimension. And many people have believed in CERN. That's just a movie. Understand that. That's just make believe in a movie. But there are people saying that there are things that have happened at CERN. They have tapped into another dimension. And there are demonic forces, fallen angels, whatever you want to call it, entities. Some people believe that they call them interdimensional beings. Some people even said aliens, all kinds of things. But something not of our world has been interacting. And there are, if you really want to go down there, there are people that have said that there are deals that have been made between people at CERN and these entities. I can't prove that. Off the air, we were talking about the statue of Shiva that's outside.
Yeah.
You got to ask yourself, why? Why would you put that outside the entrance of a laboratory that every worker that works there has to walk past that every day and pay homage to it? There is a spiritual aspect of CERN that you'll never hear from the scientists that are working there. But if you really, really research it, you will hear that from the people that have worked there and come out. They believe, Robert, that we have tapped into another dimension and we have opened a portal there. Is it a portal to hell? I don't think it's a portal to hell. I think it's a portal to the spirit realm that man has given the demonic spirit realm permission to come out of their dimension into our dimension. I don't believe man has the ability to tap into hell. Here's a little quick biblical lesson for the listeners, is the demons, other than a few that have been locked away by God, if you go by what scripture is, they're not in hell anyway. They are here dealing with us. So there would be no need for man, if they're trying to make deals with, get information from, have intelligence and creative powers and things like that from the spirit realm, to tap into hell. I believe CERN has somehow found a way. And by the way, man has to give permission for that to happen, because Genesis 1:26 says God gave man dominion. So the demons do not have dominion. If they had dominion, they'd take over the world. But they can't take over the world. They have to have a body to operate here on this earth. That's when you talk about demon possession and all these kind of things, because in order for them to truly carry out their will, they have to use man to carry that out. So therefore, man has to give them permission to cross dimensions. And I believe there's some evil at play there at CERN that has opened up some gates and opened up some doors and invited something, don't know what it is, from another dimension to come into our world.
So the Shiva, I forget, maybe you can tell us what it is. It was a gift from India, right? The statue that's in the front of, what is Shiva the god of?
Well, destruction, war, death. I mean, everything that's bad. If it's...
And skiing. It's in Switzerland, right?
Apparently okay. She's the god of skiing on the Alps as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, two other quick things about CERN, and then I know we're on a tight schedule. I want to wrap up with a couple things, but the logo for CERN is I don't know how they describe it, but it's 3 6s. Yep. And then also the second thing to comment on, Peter Higgs, the physicist who proposed the existence of the God particle and whom the Higgs boson particle is named after, died on April 8th.
You want to talk about a harbinger? Yeah. I mean, you didn't even have to look up.
I'm out of here, he goes. Yeah.
Exactly. So and look, let's remember, he died on April 8th, the day of the eclipse. But let's also remember that CERN had been in resting and pause mode for a very long time. And of all days, and all these smart, intelligent people that can predict eclipses out to the year 3000 and all these kind of things, they decide the day they're going to restart CERN was going to be April 8th. Go back and verify. Everything I'm saying is verifiably fact. They restarted CERN on April 8th, and he died on April 8th, and an eclipse happened on April 8th. You think that's just by chance? Come on.
Yeah,
that's not by chance. I mean, why would you choose? Would you not know that people from around the world that's already sort of anti-CERN would have pointed that out? Could you not have somebody in the room going, hey guys, I don't know if y'all looked at the calendar, but the day you're wanting to restart this is the day of the eclipse. Maybe we should wait till like the 10th.
Yeah. Oh, there's an earthquake on the 10th. We can't do that. It's a fall. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like somebody in the room had to speak up and say, guys, the whole world is going to be talking about an eclipse. Do we really want to start this thing back up on this day? And somebody in the room had to say, yeah, that's why we want to do it. There's no way that you can't say that they intentionally started that up on the day of the eclipse. This is all verifiable fact.
Yeah.
And then he dies. And then he dies on the same day. Come on.
Well, also the logo. I mean, the 3 6s. I mean, they could say, well, it's circular like a collider, but it just goes off a little bit where but yeah, it's like 3 6s. What's your thought on that for the logo?
It is almost hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's undeniable. It is 3 6s. And like you just pointed out, CERN is round. It doesn't get off and change over to another one. It is round. If you want to make a CERN logo, just use the word CERN and have a round circle that matches what it is. But you create this collider-looking thing that gets off the track just enough to make a 6. And it's very, very clear that there's 3 6s in the logo of CERN. Well, let me just tell you this. 3 6s, when you go into numerology, you realize that 6 and the letter W are synonymous in our language and in other languages as well, in numerology. So W is 6. Well, think about what we are recording through right now. We're recording through something called the internet, which changed the world. But before...
the World Wide Web.
Yeah, exactly. So before we went to had the World Wide Web, WWW, before we had that, the internet was simply created in the military. By the way, I hate to tell you this, but not by Al Gore.
Yeah.
But Al Gore did not invent the internet. That's an old person's joke. Only people our age get that.
I get it, unfortunately. Yeah.
But the internet was created by the military, supposedly, and it was the ability to communicate data back and forth. So here at CERN, this is crazy. When I first learned this, I was like, this is not true. This cannot be true. And then I found out that it is true. So there's a guy, his name is Bernard Lee, and Bernard Lee was a British man that was a scientist that was working at CERN, and he was creating data that he needed to communicate with other scientists there at CERN and around the world. It may shock you to realize, if you've never heard this before, listeners, the World Wide Web that gave us the ability to use the internet transferring protocol to look at images, to look at the things that we now know as the internet, was invented at CERN.
Wow.
I'm going to read directly from the CERN website. If you go to CERN's website, I believe it's cern.org or something like that, but just go to the actual CERN website or do a Google search saying, where was the World Wide Web invented? It will take you to the CERN's official website. This is what it says. The first website at CERN and in the world was dedicated to the World Wide Web project itself and hosted on Bernard Lee's computer. In 2013, CERN launched a project to restore the first ever website. On April 30th, 1993, CERN put the World Wide Web software in public domain. Later, CERN made a release available with an open license and a more sure way to maximize its dissemination. These actions allowed the web to flourish. The whole world has adopted this technology and has been programmed. Think about it. Programmed through this invention. Every narrative that we know, everything that we believe comes through an invention that was invented at CERN to program us into the world we live today. Ladies and gentlemen, it was invented at CERN. Is that crazy?
Yeah, that's nuts. One last thing about CERN, if you don't mind, is Are other countries creating similar things? Like, do we have to be concerned about China or Russia or even the U.S.? Do we have similar projects underway?
Oh, yeah. Great question. I mean, if the question that you're trying to seek is the God particle, if you are trying to do experiments and you've got the largest collider in the world there underground in Switzerland, CERN, then you got to ask yourself, why then would you need multiple CERNs around the world? We have CERNs in America. We have one not too far from Chicago. We have actually a smaller CERN in Tennessee. They are all around the world. And they are getting ready to build the largest in the world that would be much bigger than the current CERN in China. Boy, I really trust China with this.
Yeah.
But here's another. Yeah. So you asked the question why, and I'll come back to that question very quickly. But then you have to ask the question this. I don't know if you know this, but you can go and find this as well on the internet, that the CERN organization based in Geneva, Switzerland, has now put forth a proposal to build another CERN in Switzerland that is minimally 3 times as large, possibly 5 times as large as the current CERN. And when you see the perspective drawing of it, it is insane, because you see this little circle that goes around Geneva and into France. And then the new project would basically encompass the entire nation of Switzerland and other countries as well. Gigantic. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why do you have to have one so much bigger if you've achieved the God particle, you've done all these kind of things? What are you really trying to do? And then you ask your question, why does Russia need one? Why does China need one? Why does America need one? That's when my mind goes to, maybe it's not about the experiments. It's about maybe we believe that there's something going on in that region that may open a portal there. There is a place over here that has heightened spiritual activity for ages. So maybe we need to go underground and open up another portal there. There are places in this world that are hyper spiritual. They are believed to be portal places where heavenly things have happened, demonic things have happened. My mind goes to, conspiracy or not, my mind goes to, if the reason is scientific, then you ought to be able to do it in Switzerland. But you got to do the same thing. You got to do the same thing all around the world. You might have better scientists in Chicago, maybe better scientists in Chicago than you do in Geneva. That don't even make sense. So what makes sense to my finite mind, and I realize it's a finite mind, I'm not as educated as some people, is I believe it's more about the portal aspect of it. Then when I heard they wanted to make one 3 to 5 times as big in the same place, I have to ask myself, what is really going on there?
Well, you know what comes to mind to me is maybe they're trying to get that last 0.1% so they can hit the speed of light.
Yeah,
I don't know. That kind of came to my mind. Okay, I have to tell you, when the solar eclipse happened on my Facebook page, a lot of people said the same thing. Oh, first snow, then eclipse, now this. What's next? Bring on the locusts, and then, of course, the cicadas. So you want to talk about the cicadas real quickly?
Yo, this world is crazy. Of all things, in the same month, and it's already begun now. In Georgia, South Carolina, several people are posting videos. I saw one place, I believe it might have been South Carolina, North Carolina, I can't remember. It was so loud in this neighborhood that people were freaking out, calling 911. They felt like they was being invaded by something. It was so loud. I mean, think about this. The last time this happened were 2 broods of cicadas, one that's been underground for 13 years and one that's been underground for 17 years, come up together at the same time. The last time that happened in America, Thomas Jefferson was president, and he wrote about it. He thought it was locusts. He did not know what cicadas were. So he thought it was the biblical sign of locusts, that we're being invaded by locusts. So you talk about harbingers. By the way, the last time that there was an X of eclipses, the way there was in 2017 and in 2024, continental from one side to the other, was in 1776. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
But in 1776, the last time that happened, what we just experienced was in 1776. And then the last time the cicadas coming up out of the ground the way they were, Thomas Jefferson was president. So then you have the eclipse, then you have the cicadas coming up in the same month, if not within a month and a half to 2 months from each other. It's going to feel like an invasion. Boy, I tell you, I did a video on just the cicadas one night, and I played this video, which was freaky, because this scientist out of, I believe it was University of Georgia, and he was saying, when we have something like this and you walk through the forest and you hear these cicadas going off, He said, you walk through trying to take pictures, you will feel like a gentle breeze is hitting you. And he says, but it's not a gentle breeze. He said that there's only two things cicadas do when they come out of the ground before they die, is they make noise, and well, maybe three. They make noise, they breathe, and then they urinate.
Oh, God.
And he said they are the strongest peers of all the insects. And he says you will feel like a gentle mist is hitting you.
Oh, God.
But you are being peed on by millions of cicadas.
Boy.
He said it is going to feel like nothing you've ever experienced in your life. That's another harbinger, y'all. It's got to be. I mean, come on. First you had the sun. Now you got bugs peeing on you. Come on. Get your heart right with God.
There's a mem in there somewhere. But, yeah, I think we have to close when we're at the end, Larry. But let's close on, is there a positive thing anywhere?
Sure.
Let's just talk about that at the end and where people can go find out more about you. I could talk to you for hours, my friend, but I want to respect your time, and let's just end on a good note if we can find one.
Well, I appreciate it. Of course there is. This is what I like to tell people in all of God's infinite wisdom. He's the Alpha and the Omega. Remember that, the beginning and the end. He chose us to be alive during this time. He knew we would be alive. You know, all the great names, the great historians, the great preachers, the great people, many of them, most all of them are gone. We read about them in books, but we're here. We're here. And you got to understand the privilege that is. It's an honor to know that God trusted you. He trusted me to be alive in this moment, and not to be afraid, not to be moved by fear, but that he would choose us to have the opportunity to serve him and to be a voice of reason and a voice of hope. One of my favorite scriptures talks about one of the tribes of Israel is Issachar. And it says the sons of Issachar, they were known because they understood and discerned the times in which they live, and they knew what Israel ought to do. So I want to cry out to you right now and call out to you right now to be like the sons of Issachar, to say, you know, God, you trusted me. And the fact that you trusted me, I want to be able to discern this moment. I want to be able to understand what I'm really living in. And Lord, I don't believe that you just called me to exist. You caused me to bring light. You caused me to bring hope. You said, we are the light of the world. So I want to encourage people to have any semblance of God whatsoever. And even if they don't, to just sort of give him a shot and really call out to him, and maybe look at the manual there. The manual for life is called the Bible. When you get into that manual, you'll begin to see that really none of this should take the believer by surprise, because it's all been told to us that it was going to happen. So absolutely, it is a privilege and an honor to live in this moment. And I tell you what, I thank God that I'm alive in this moment, because I mean, we're seeing things that no other generation has ever seen, and we're going to see things that no other generation has ever seen. And what will you do with that? What will you do with that? Will you just exist? Or will you just breathe and then one day just move on? Or are you going to leave an impact? I made a decision a long time ago, and I tell my church all the time, and I tell my family and tell my kids, I want to live a life that outlives my life. What that means is legacy. What are you doing now to affect your children, your children's children, your neighborhood, your community? Seize this moment and cry out to him. And I'm honored to be on this program. If anybody would like to connect with us, all they have to do is go to LarryRagland.com or LarryRagland.tv. You can look up our YouTube channel. It's just called The Big Picture with Larry Ragland on YouTube. We're on YouTube, Rumble. But the best way to do it is just go to LarryRagland.com. Connect with us there. Hey, we're open to encouragement. We're also open to correction. I mean, come on, whatever you feel, we'd just like to hear from you. And Robert, I am honored to be on your program, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I loved having you, Larry. This is really great. And I think a big takeaway I got at the very end was really two words. Rather than look at our current situation with concern, use discern to come away with what you can do and how you react to the present, right? What you do and the impact you leave. So
that's good.
Thank you so much. I loved having you, and really appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
You've been listening to the Afraid of Nothing podcast. Please subscribe and like us on Facebook. Until next time, stay scared.
Hey, you're still here? Great. Then why not listen to another episode? Visit AfraidOfNothingPodcast.com to peruse all the shows. That's afraidofnothingpodcast.com. And while you're there, click the coffee cup icon to buy me a coffee and leave a review. I'll give you a shout-out in an upcoming episode, and the world will know how swell you are.